Well, now what our next guest doesn't know about boxing isn't worth mentioning, but this is a Bun's Show debut for the one and only, the only Mr. Barry Hearn. Barry, thanks very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. How could I miss out on this? I would pay just to listen to him.
A Bun's Show debut.
Bun's Show debut.
We like that, don't we?
I'm in the big time. I'm so happy.
Listen, Barry, we'll start with Prizefighter. We had Michael Lomax on the show. We had Oval in the studio last week. The biggest grin on his face. He sold the cup, though. He's let it melted down.
That's okay. That's
okay. This Prizefighter thing, it's clear what this Prizefighter tournament first. I'm a big fan, as you know. It is going from strength to strength. Any chance of doing an international one?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is just the beginning. You know, it's a bit like a lot of the stuff we do. You know, sometimes we compare it to, say, Premier League darts. You know, the first year Premier League darts, we had 600 people in the audience, and we said, this is a format that can work. Next year, O2, we'll have 16,000. So, you know, it can grow. Prizefighter, for me, has reinvented my love for watching boxing. I just love it, because everyone's a story, every character's trying his best, and it's growing, you know, at the right pace. Don't expect to see it up there now. No. But the fact of life is we're currently in discussions with ESPN about a joint venture in America. We're in discussions with ETV about a joint venture for Africa. We're talking to Asian Logic about a joint venture for Asia. Wow. This is going to grow, and it's quite, for me, in the latter years of my career,
don't start that.
You know, it's nice to be motivated. It's nice to be motivated with something new and something fresh.
It's going to go, seems to go global then.
Oh, we'll go global, and so it should.
But the international version will come with, for example, you go to South Africa, you'll take 4 South African fighters and you'll put them on one side, you'll bring 4 international fighters on the other side and say, have a tear up, boys. Set it, you know, that's
it's like, and that's what it never tell, and it's the fans that make it so different. And let's go back a little bit. I want to talk about, I know it wasn't your first show, but let's talk about, if we can, Bruno and Bugner.
Yeah, third show.
Why aren't they? Third show, yeah. That's 1987. People make that mistake of saying it was the third. That was the third. What's your abiding memory of that night, apart from trying to get Big Joe out of the changing room because he was demanding an extra £2.50 or something?
No, he was fantastic. I've got loads and loads of memories of that night. My biggest memory is the fact that BBC turned down the fight because they didn't think it was in the public interest.
Duh.
They know a lot about boxing. Not. That was fantastic.
We do a lot of BBC knocking on it.
No, it's 18.5 million viewers made the vote, which is okay. My biggest memory was the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. And I put together this show. Somehow I'd nicked Frank Bruno from underneath Mickey Duff's eyes, and he went, it was just mental. My timing was immaculate.
If I may say so.
I'm in a Chinese restaurant in Southend. This is perfectly true. I'm in a Chinese restaurant in Southend, talking to my wife and saying, "Gee, I fancy this boxing. I've done 2 little shows with Gary Mason. I want to do a big one." She said, and my wife's very to the front. "What do you want to do?" I said, "I fancy doing Frank Bruno against Joe Bugner.
Nothing big.
Everybody loves Big Frank. Everybody hates Joe Bugner because he beat Henry Cooper and he didn't really and all that." She said, "That sounds good. Why don't you do it?" I said, "Well, I will." She said, "Well, don't mess about. If you're going to do it, do it. I said, "Well, I'll show you what. I got his number." And I went up to the church. It's a true story, gospel true story. I went to the restaurant. The lady who was taking the orders. "Can I borrow your phone?"
No mobile.
Chinese restaurant in Southend, free mobile. She said, "Of course you can." She thought I was phoning a taxi. I dialed Melbourne. And a little squeaky voice said, "Hello?" And I said, "Joe, is that you?" He said, "Yes." I said, "It's Barry Hearn." I said, "You don't know me. I do a bit of snooker." He said, "Yeah, I've heard the name." I said, "I want you to come to England." I said, "I want you to fight Frank Bruno. It's going to cost you a lot of money, mate." But I said, "Joe, I've done a bit of research. You've got $10,000 for your last fight." And silence at the end of the phone. "I'll give you £250,000. Silence. And he went, "And what plane did you want me on, mate?" And that's how the deal was done. It was absolutely fantastic. And the last story, just to finish off, because it was a big night. It was a big night. I mean, the show made, you know, I don't know, a couple of million quid. So I know some of us have to work months for that, don't we? But this was, you know, it was a lovely night. And I was wondering, what does the promoter do, having no experience? What do you do on the night of your biggest fight when you don't know what the hell's going on?
Where do you celebrate?
And there's 35,000 people. Now, I remember a black and white Mickey Rooney film where he was a promoter, and he went to wish the fighters the best of luck. So I thought, I'll do that. I walked down a corridor, knocked on Frank Bruno's. It was like going into a morgue. Yeah. The atmosphere was like ice. Frank was like this, concentrating, and I said, "Best of luck, Frank," and he went, "Ugh." I thought, that's good. Yeah. Went down the corridor. I could hear the music coming out of Joe Bugner. Now, this is a bloke that fought Ali in Kuala Lumpur. He'd fought all the top names. Nothing was going to scare him. And all he was opened the door, and he was, Marlene, which one of these will? Marlene was telling him which dressing gown to put on.
Oh my God.
I said,
domestic situation.
Joe, I said, I've got to tell you, you've promoted this fight for me. You've made me a shed load of money. I said, I am so happy that you've worked so hard, and I'll give you a little promise, mate. If you win tonight, there's a new kid in America called Mike Tyson. I will bring him over to fight you, and I'll pay you what you need. And he looked at me, and none of us had really heard of Tyson so much in those days. He looked at me and said, well, Barry, he said, you're paying me a lot of money, and I'm going to do my best. Yeah. But if he hurts me, I'm going down. That was his last line to me. And of course, Frank didn't really hit until the 8th round, and he never went down anyway.
He sort of slumped into the ropes.
But it was my best way of saying, do you know what? You can have a lot of fun out of doing this, and that's what I do boxing for. I'm selfish. I like the punters to be happy. The biggest punter I want to be happy is me. I want to feel as if I've had value for money when I leave the arena, that I've had some entertainment.